Hey everyone, and welcome to Elijah Streams. It is Friday, February 6th, 2026. We are pre-recording the show. I'm Kelsey O'Malley, filling in for Steve Schultz, and Dr. Scott Young will be joining me on the show today to talk about government spending and how over the years there's been a misappropriation of trillions of dollars. And it can be very frustrating to hear this information. And we pay taxes and it's just poof, trillions. Just where did it go? Nobody knows. But I think Dr. Scott will help share with us today about how we shouldn't be worried and why. He will explain that to us and talk about just fraud in general and what's going on. And also he'll be answering your questions about NESARA or NESARA. Sorry, I always say it wrong because I'm from Florida. I think the way I would have said it growing up, it's like some people say Reese's, some people say Reese's. Anyways, sorry if I said that wrong. NESARA. Okay, well, I'm very, very excited to have Dr. Scott on. Whenever he comes on, I'm encouraged for the future and for my children to know that they can have a bright future because good things are coming. And he really helps us to be encouraged and stay and keep our focus on the Lord and know that good things are planned from the heart of God for all of us. Before we get started and Dr. Scott Young joins me on the show, I want to share with you one of our beautiful water well videos. And within it, you will see how much of a difference you are making by helping people have access to fresh, clean water. And we want to thank you again so much for your help. And so here's a video to really encourage you that your donations are making a difference.
Join us for an unforgettable journey to the Holy Land, the 2026 Israel Tour with ElijahStreams. Experience powerful worship with Robin Bullock and the 11th Hour Band. And be inspired by Steve and Doreen Schultz, Yvonne and Mina Attia, Mike and Lori Sally, and Michael Wilhelm. Steve Swanson will be leading us in music as we walk where Jesus walked. worship at historic sites, and connect deeply with the land and its people. This is more than a tour. It's a spiritual encounter. Spots are limited, so register now at ElijahStreams.com/Israel26.
If you're interested in going on the Israel tour, the deadline to register for that is March 12th, just so you're aware. That will be the last day that you can sign up. So I would really encourage you to go. I think it's going to be an amazing time. And I was watching that water well video with all of you, and I never knew that the leading cause of death in children in Uganda was like waterborne illnesses. I never knew that. And so you are literally saving lives when you dig wells in their village. You are helping them to not get sick from those waterborne illnesses. And I know we've showed videos in the past, and Mike and Lori Sally have come on to talk about how where the animals, what they drink, where they wash, where they use the restroom, that's where they go, have to get water. That's their only water source. So you can understand why that would lead to so many deaths. So you are literally saving lives, and that's absolutely incredible. And we are so honored that you partner with us and help us to dig these freshwater wells. You're really doing the Lord's work. And I know that the gospel is shared as well, and villages are coming to know Jesus, and it's just amazing. And I know if I was a mother there with young kids and my kids had to walk each day, sometimes miles to get water, it'd be extremely difficult as a mother to have your kids go do that. And there's just so many different places in the society and in the villages that you're helping. It's mothers, it's children, it's grandparents, it's animals, it's newborns. So thank you. Thank you so much for helping us with this mission. You can go to ElijahStreams.com/donate and partner with us today. All right, well, my guest is an audiologist and an author, and he has helped us understand NESARA and how it will be implemented and what it will look like. So please help me welcome my guest today, Dr. Scott Young.
Eric called me and said, hey, what are your top 5 favorite Christian broadcasts? He asked, and I said, you got to get on Elijah Streams. You got to do it. Steve's great. You got to get on his show.
All right, Dr. Scott. Are you ready to frustrate me in the beginning of the show with the facts on how many trillions of dollars the government has so we don't know what happened with it, but something happened to the money.
Yeah, I mean, and we can get frustrated with it, but the reality is, I always love saying this. Do you know that 6 times in the New Testament, one of the most curious adverbial phrases that are in the beginning, and it's 6 times, it says before the foundation of the earth. And it's one of the more famous ones in Revelation 13:8. It says, before the foundation of the earth, the Lamb was slain.
Yes.
It means before anything ever existed. Therefore, God's already seen everything that ever happened. Okay.
Yeah.
So when we kind of see things, like, for instance, one of my employees, her grandmother dies in a fire this past Saturday.
Oh my goodness.
So we have,
sorry.
when you have evil situations, I mean, these are situations of the natural evils. Those are an example of a natural evil. And you go,
Yes.
well, how does that happen? And you go, and you say that, well, how does a God place this? And you go, these are natural evils. And we go, well, when we're beyond the veil, I'm going to ask God about that.
Yeah.
And we could say that same thing with what we're going to talk about today. And the answer is, we are in a world that has evils. And these are responses of the evils that are going on around us, whether natural evils or they are evils of the people doing it.
Yes. Yeah.
And the reality is, God's saying, listen, why are you struggling with this? And I'll give you a perfect example And he actually gives us a couple different statements of this. Number one, he says, "Why are you worried about what you're going to do tomorrow? Um, Today, you got stuff to do." In essence, that's the Scott version.
Yes.
And the secondly, that you're worried about like what you should wear, and yet the lilies of the field are clothed better than Solomon.
Yes.
So why are you worried about it? Because and they're ripped up and we throw them in the trash and we burn them up. And so and that's the kind of thing that happens. I mean, when I go buy flowers
True.
for my wife, we've just been married past 33 years. When I go buy flowers, after a while she loves them and she cuts them up and then she cuts them a little bit more and she rips out a few of them and then finally throws them in the trash, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're done, so they're forgotten about.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is we are sitting there worried about things that God has said, "Man, I've already got figured out. I've already got this taken care of." And so I
Yes.
always challenge people
Love
with
it.
that kind of message each time we look at that.
Mm-hmm. It's a good reminder. And my mom will quote that to me all the time. She'll say, "Well, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow worries about itself." And
Absolutely.
just that alone is like, yeah, that is
Dude,
what the Bible says. You're right. You're right. God's right, It is it's so encouraging and I can hear it all the time because life does happen and things do get into your thoughts and even about this when I know, about how money goes missing and you're paying tax dollars and you're thinking, "Well, what's going on?" and what and it's like, "No, just don't worry about tomorrow. Just
yep,
worry about today." So,
right.
why don't you share with us a little bit about government fraud. Let's just label it what it is.
Exactly. Well, let's just show it up on the screen here and we'll kind of push through here and we'll see where we go. So I started looking at this a little bit different, and thank you to Catherine Austin Fitz, who kind of showed a little bit better some of this stuff. So the leading report kind of showed this. The Uniparty, which by the way, we're in the middle of the SAVE Act, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about that in a little bit. But the SAVE Act, the Uniparty says DC has been, and they say allegedly, no, misappropriated $55 trillion of American taxpayers since
Mm,
2008. Um, and she would know. I'm going to tell you that it's probably higher than that number, and you're going to go, no. See, and this is a number that is unfathomable. You got to say that one like 14 times in a row, and you'd be like tongue tied. Okay, so let's show you this one, and this one's a little hard to you can watch it on the screen because it's a little hard to understand her. And let me bring this up here. We'll explain that one in a second, but I watch this.
As we all know that our U.S. tax system is a voluntary tax system, and we depend on people willing every year to sit down, fill out that form, and pay their appropriate amount of taxes. So I really think enforcement is a reward to those who voluntarily comply. And I think if the public does not see that the IRS is enforcing the laws, we're going to be at risk of losing people continuing to voluntarily comply.
Okay, first off, that's some nutty kind of statements here. We have to enforce the laws because it's voluntary. Like that's like there's so many things wrong with the statements. I don't even know how to explain that. Right?
yes,
I mean,
yes.
you
It's
know,
opposite. It's like enforce you're volunteering. You're giving your time for free. No, we're going to enforce it.
and that's why I tell people all the time, like when you're talking to government agencies, never volunteer information. I mean, actually, lawyers say this all the time. Like when, I'm not trying to tell you to skirt the law on this kind of stuff. But one of the things that happens when a police officer pulls you over, or they ask you, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" And lawyers will tell you, number one, if you start like spouting off at the mouth before you get a Miranda right, kind of thing. I mean, they're not going to give you a Miranda right for, like whatever you've done. They're looking for you to like admit oh, my taillight is busted. And then, by the way, I didn't do this and I didn't do that. And they're going to like add that stuff up against you. Like,
Mhm.
and the point is that's what they do. I mean, and so this is part of that system of this kind of thing. And if you're talking about the system of the IRS, you actually are telling them how much you have to pay. And I'm going to give you an example. The very first time I ever quarreled with the IRS, we had done it. I believe that we had done it absolutely perfectly. I mean, there was just two of us, my wife and I. We filed our taxes without a child, and we came out, and they wanted to audit us, and it was unfair audit all the way through and through.
Mm.
And they were saying we owed, and I'm going to make up a number. It was like $300 or $400. We fought it, and it got down to like $1.55. I'm going to make up a number. I don't remember the exact number. So I was so ticked off at them. I got pennies and nickels, and I taped it on a piece of paper, and I said, here it is for you, buddy. And it cost me way more than it did to mail that letter. They accepted it.
Oh my goodness,
And
that's awesome.
I put the hardest hardest amount of tape they couldn't get it off there. I guarantee you what they did is threw that thing in the trash. It's because of that kind of thing. That was my first
Right,
kind of
right.
interaction with them. So one of the things that happens, 16th
Wow.
Amendment comes in here. Sorry, I went off on tangent there with that. 16th Amendment comes in 1913. It was actually passed, and I want to say it was like 1897, and they forced it in 1913. Same time frame, and I think it was in July of 1913, in the same time frame that the Fed comes online in 1913.
Wow.
And it says, and it's one of the stupidest levels of languages that you'll ever see in the 16th Amendment. And here's what it says: Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived without apportionment among the several states, without regard to any census or enumeration. I'm like, what? I mean,
I can't even understand what that means, to be honest. I'm like, what does that even mean?
and exactly what happens, and it has been challenged over and over again
Okay.
on many levels, and most people, and even Senator Hiawatha Warren they tell you that the money that comes from the IRS goes to roads and schools, and the answer, that is the most bogus answer in the history of the world. None of that money goes to schools. That comes from property taxes, even though
Wow.
property taxes are illegal in other ways. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
where do schools or where roads come from? Sales tax.
Mm.
So it's a lie from in the complete world. And because I have been through auditing, I've actually checked out where all that stuff comes from. And
Wow.
the local auditors, state auditors, actually look at federal auditing. So when state auditors come to your place
Mm-hmm.
of business or home, they're looking at state issues. So
Wow.
when you get audited, and you'll have the local firms that, so you're whether you live in California or Florida,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have the people out in Cincinnati, which is where the IRS comes from.
Mm-hmm.
They send out the local one. And you go, well, wait a second, why am I not getting the federal one? Because you have to pay federal taxes and state taxes. When you pay state and federal taxes, it all goes to the same group.
Mm.
See, that's what most people think. The state, you pay your state income tax,
Yeah.
and it goes to state issues. No, it doesn't. It goes to federal.
Wow. Yeah,
It
that's
all
what I
goes
would
to the
I would
same.
think.
It all goes to the same kitty, and that's the same idiocy that they do. See, and it's all a game to them. Okay. Let's move on to this kind of thing. This is a little bit hard to read, and I tried to expand it a little bit. So the U.S. collects $2.4 trillion in income tax, and it spends $1.5 trillion. Now, if we didn't have to pay for fraud, it will only need $900 billion. That means less than $500,000. Now, that's not exactly the number here. Let me kind of tell you actually the reality. We are gaining about $900 billion in tariffs right now.
Wow.
So guess what? If we just take the tariffs in, we would pay for everything in government we really need. And it should make you go, wait a second, what? We don't even need anything from the IRS.
Wow.
That should tell you something. And so this Nick Shirley kind of thing that has come out, that has gotten so much massive level of attention. He has gotten 400 or 500 million views. He is literally, that kid, that 24-year-old kid has literally taken down Minnesota, and he's going in to California doing the same kind of thing. And many of us have dovetailed along there and shown that one of the things that we found is that all of the fraud is happening when we take that money from the federal and we're sending to the states.
Yeah.
It's there. And so we talked a little bit about this in other ways. Let me show you. This will even make you nutty. So when you look at the blue line is just the tax revenue. Now, and you go, wait a second. So the blue line has been kind of flat, right? And then the orange line is the government spending. Now, if you notice that they're kind of on an incline, normal incline up to about the middle of 2020, right? And so there's this, and you see this little area here. Now, it wasn't as big even in an Obama time frame. Okay. Now, what goes on here is this little dip. This is when no one was working during the beginning of the pandemic.
Okay.
So people lost their job like crazy, and look at it. It isn't much different than about 2013-ish. So look, they were actually able to make it not much different than the time frame here. Okay. Then suddenly they're asking for more money, but no one can afford this. And then look, there's a spike of money which they're stealing so much massive amount of money in income tax. Now, I'm going to tell you, I have no idea how much they're taking here. And as a business owner, I know for a fact that they weren't taking as much money from everyone's paychecks. And you're going to go, wait a second, how is that money inclining?
Yeah.
I can't answer it. I literally cannot answer this. They were taking some money in ways I can't actually realize. So there's an incline here that I can't actually answer. But
maybe from dead people?
Well, I don't know. This is income that's coming in from IRS revenue.
Oh,
so
okay.
I don't know what that is. So listen, there's stuff I can't figure out here. Okay, but the orange line, this is the Biden fraud.
Look how high it spikes.
This is the COVID fraud, and this is the COVID fraud and the COVID money. This is when like we've seen this, like someone comes into a jewelry store and they have a snatch and grab, and we're not talking about a snatch and grab. This is when like 30 people run into a jewelry store and they rob it blind. And we've seen this all across America, right? And then they rob a whole store, and when they leave, and it's not like 7 minutes later, and the place is gone. That's exactly what they're doing to America.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Move on.
Is that when they
Okay, I'll go back.
started, sorry, is that when all of the learning centers and
Yep.
things opened?
Yeah. Well, actually, here's when the one of the things that occurred in the summer of love in Minnesota.
Okay.
They stole people's businesses in Minnesota specifically, and in California too.
Mm-hmm.
So as places were burning left and right, no one got any money. And I'm very, very familiar with the Minnesota area. I think I talked about this with you guys last time. Okay. None of those people got any money, and they were not given a dime. So they
Wow.
left. So the quality learning centers
Mm-hmm.
came in, and they were given all that fraud money.
Unbelievable.
So they were given the fraud money around this time frame, and it was known that was happening in this kind of quarter time frame. So over it started around 2017, 2018. So we started seeing it, but it spiked heavily in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So we
Yes.
know this happened, and it was happening in every single state. Colorado, New Jersey, it was happening in California. I mean, and they were, in California, for instance, give an example, they spent hundreds of billions of dollars for that light rail, and they haven't even laid like a mile or two of tracks.
Oh my gosh. So they spent it on that.
Right. And so, for instance, they actually spent like $200 million for a cell phone upgrade of their network. And then 3 years later, it doesn't even work. So they have to scrap the whole cell phone network and start again. Like you're going,
So my question is there's no audits to what
no,
they do with the
no, they
money?
never do it. And this
Wow.
is the thing. And by the way, the Fed has never ever been audited. This is the other thing. The Fed has never been audited. The IRS has never been audited. None of these people have ever been audited. Nancy Pelosi has never been audited. None of these people have been audited. Okay.
The rules don't apply to them, right?
No, of course they haven't. But
Yeah.
here's what's happening. This is a part of the audit. This is why we're seeing this stuff. The audit is coming, and it's coming so hard
Awesome.
because we never knew this. The reason why you're seeing it now
Yeah.
is that Doge is the audit.
Yes.
This should make you,
It's great.
the reason why you're mad is because now you're seeing the audit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is so cool, guys. This is really cool. You should be happy. Okay. Because here's the audit. It seems like, no, this person is being a little facetious when she says this, right? It seems like the IRS needs to audit themselves. This is kind of the point. IRS mission, now she's being facetious. Please don't get too upset about it. Is to provide American taxpayers top quality service, blah, helping them understand and meet the tax responsibilities to enforce the laws with integrity and fairness. Integrity, they have no idea. Do you know that when people say integrity, and by the way, the number one buzzword of hospitals is integrity, and they have none.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The section in the IRS tax code is 7801 to carry out the responsibility of Treasury Secretary. Do you know who the Treasury? Do you know the IRS has fired and let go of their Treasury Secretary? Do you know who the IRS Secretary is?
No.
Scott Bessent. He is over Treasury Secretary, and he is the IRS coverage. It's because they're not going to bring in a secretary of the IRS.
So it's just all they just move the chess pieces.
Yeah, so they're actually just going to delete them because they don't need them.
Wow.
Okay, so this is the deletion. See, because what I keep trying to tell you is taxation is just theft, And we're all seeing this. If you just go
What a true
on to
statement.
Facebook and all this other stuff, dear IRS, since we paid for our fraud, we'd like our money back. Not now. No, I mean, not later, but now. The same way you expect us to be owed. Sincerely, all of us. We're seeing the
All
same
of us.
kind of statement over and over again. Last year, the IRS intimated that maybe 10% of the people didn't pay their taxes. I'm predicting that if we don't have a flip,
Mhm.
a currency flip, I'm predicting before April 15th, I'm predicting way higher numbers than that. I'm going to predict that anywhere from 30 to 50% of the people are not going to do it. I'm not telling people not to do it. I'm just telling you, I'm saying I don't think anyone's going to really do it. That's just where it
Wow.
happens. Now, this one would take you a lot of time to go through. I'm going to give you just a quick rundown. But this is from Catherine Austin Fitts, and this is what she's talked about with the 55 trillion. Now, I'm gonna kind of talk a little bit about this, but this came out way before the Epstein stuff. Okay, so
Mhm.
HUD reform and credit reform come out. Thank you, appreciate. Open this up here too. So HUD reform and credit reform comes out in 90 to 94. Well, wait a second, credit reform? Yeah, that was a bad thing. So Epstein's first visit to Clinton, and by the way, Clinton is getting so much crud that he's going to have to come to the White House floor, or to the congressional floor, just to talk about why he was at Epstein Island, 80 million times, right?
Mhm.
So then the Fed buys BIS shares. Basically, the Fed has owned BIS, which is the Bank of International, I forget what it is, but it's in Europe. And
Okay.
so trust me, they're all connected. If the Fed goes down, all the central banks go down.
Mhm.
Okay. 1995, real interesting. Budget deal fails. They Windows 95 is introduced inside of the US government. Why? So they could have an inside of the US government.
Wow.
The WTO, the World Trade Organization, is established inside of our government so that they could actually mess with us. So then undocumentable adjustments skyrocket. This is when they started to bring on NGOs and all these other sick things that they wanted to add these different ways to mess with everyone. And then we had basically about 2000, the Patriot Act, well, actually 2001, the Patriot Act comes out. It was after 9/11. But in 9/10, right before 9/11, they actually stole as she says, 3.3. It's really $3.2 trillion. That DOD admits that we failed an audit. We don't know where $3.2 trillion went. Now, one of the things that I think is fascinating is that this is the exact amount of money that was going to be brought in to start NESARA.
Oh, wow.
What most people don't realize is 9/11 was supposed to be the date that we were supposed to bring in we were supposed to start NESARA. We were supposed to, the White Hats again were coming in with the cabal, and they were going to do it in the World Trade Centers.
Oh my goodness.
And we were going to do it in Building 7 as well. That's why Building 7 went down like that.
Yes. Whoa.
And this is and that 3.2, it was really $3.2 trillion went up, and they took the money out. That's why there was thermite in the building of Building 1 and 2. They had to bring those things down upon the people, and they had to kill 3,000 people to cover up their crime of stealing the money.
It's sick.
It is the crime of the century. and people don't even know this. And this is part of the sickness that happens. In 2008 to 2010.
Real quick before you move on,
Sure.
do you believe that Trump's going to expose more on 9/11?
Oh yeah, it has to be done, but it's not the first thing that has to happen. We'll have to go back and talk about that one later.
Okay.
It'll be a secondary point. Okay. And she brings this out she talks about the great financial crisis. This is the Great Recession, right? And if you watch, there's a wonderful movie that you guys got to watch. It's very cabal, and it's called Too Big to Fail. So Too Big to Fail is something that everyone has got to go watch, and probably you need to watch it 2 or 3 times. Too Big to Fail.
Where can we find it?
You can find it on Amazon. You can definitely find that on Amazon. You can kind of get that one. You can search for it pretty easily.
Okay.
And you can definitely get that one. Now they will tell you that during the 2008 crisis, 2009, that Bush and by the way, Obama was a part of this. That they gave the banks $250 billion. This is the first major bailout. Well, that's silliness, because there was bailouts way before this. Okay. And they gave the banks $250 billion, and the banks were like, no, we don't want this money. We shouldn't get this money. Oh, they loved the money, right? And she says they were given $29 trillion. Well, can I tell you what I was told? I was told that they were given $83 trillion in 2009.
And what are they doing with this?
They took that money, and here's what I was told. I was told this back in 2014, and I didn't believe them. I didn't believe my contact. I was like, and she's the first person that ever said trillions of dollars. I read this just the other day, and I was sitting there going, what?
Yeah, your mind can't even.
I mean, no one has ever said trillions on this date. I mean, I have said this 83 trillion for a long time. I even wrote a book about this a while ago, and no one has said anything like this other than Catherine. And I said this 5 years ago, and she said this just a little bit ago. Here's the thing. What they did is that the White Hat sent this in through the SWIFT system, okay? Which is when people go, what is the SWIFT system? Do you know that when you move your money, right? When you want to move money from one account to another, you have to give 2 different points, right? You have to give your account number, and you have to give your routing number. You know what your routing number is? It's called the SWIFT code.
Oh, okay.
And so your SWIFT code, they tell you, well, that's the address of the bank. No, it's not. That's silliness. You don't need a SWIFT code. The SWIFT code is how they would shut off monies to anyone they want to.
Oh, wow.
See, when the DEA wants to go and shut off money to any person that they don't like, and by the way, in the trucking events in Canada,
yes,
they were doing that in the Canadian stuff. They shut off the SWIFT codes in Canada. That's how they shut off the trucker SWIFT codes. That's what they do.
Interesting.
Okay, this is the sick things. Okay, we'll move on here. Wow. And in 2015, they stole $6.5 trillion in adjustments. This is another time that they did this. Then in the Skidmore report, they had $21 trillion that was missing. And then we'll move forward.
It's just unbelievable, and then nobody does anything.
Yeah, well, guess what? It's coming around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so then in 2019, really interesting. This is when everything started to change. Okay. Trump starts creating these executive orders. Okay. And Catherine understands these. Executive Order 13818. 13818. And what that executive order does is it says, if you have crimes against humanity, I'm taking all of your money. I'm bankrupting you. And so what?
Uh-oh.
Yep. And and that is relates to anyone. Basically, it's talking about the Jeffrey Epstein stuff.
Yeah.
That's why it comes in September. And basically, Epstein dies, right?
You're doing air quotes, yes.
Yep, I'm doing the air quote kind of thing. And it resets and consolidates all of this stuff. And so this stuff happens, right? And then in 2020, the Fed injects $5 trillion into the systems. Now, one of the things that people talk about is this thing called Operation Warp Speed. Now, what Operation Warp Speed was, what most people think Operation Warp Speed was about us trying to like deal with bringing in Trump supposedly dealing with the COVID thing and bringing in what he talked about was bringing in a vaccine in a really quick time frame. And I go, no, has nothing to do with that. What that was is to reset the system and going into the NESARA reset. And so
how so?
Because what happens here is warp speed is about taking it all from the idiots.
It's an easy way to put it.
And so here's what happens. 80% of every dollar that has ever been created, and she doesn't even get into this, every 80% of every dollar that's ever been created from the history of the Fed has ever been created started in 2020 to 2025. And I'm telling you, there's so much money that has been created after this chart that I can't even explain.
That my mind can't even fathom that.
People go like, what? Like, and so like, and we can pull this off the screen here, so we can because we're done there. Wow. I want you to understand this. Someone asked me today, aren't they going to bail out the banks? And by the way, people who hold to like the Great Reset, we've got to fight against the Great Reset or the BRICS. They're gonna take money from us. And I go, okay, let me just explain this to you. Let's say this. Let's say Kelsey wants to get into a high stakes poker game. I don't think she does this, but let's just say she does. And she's going to do a high stakes poker game, and it's $1 million buy-in. Okay. And she walks up to the table and she goes, I want to play. And they go, okay, well, it's $1 million buy-in. And she goes, well, I got $1,000. Idiot. It's $1 million buy-in. You got $1,000. Come back when you got $1 million bucks.
Right.
Okay. Let me explain what happens. We've got $38 trillion in debt coming on $39 trillion in about 6 months. The world is sitting on around $60 to $70 trillion of its own debt.
Okay.
Let's set that aside.
Okay.
America has $106 trillion of its own debt. So 60, 39-ish, and $106 trillion of debt. So let's say the world says, okay, we want to belly up and pay our debts off. Like people ask me all the time, like, what do I do? What if I want to just pay off all my debts right now? Okay, fine. We've never had as much cash in the banks as we do today. Do you know how much cash we have in the bank?
No.
$5 trillion.
That's it?
That's it. We don't even have enough money to even possibly, just like Kelsey walking in with $1,000 to $1 million buy-in. Ain't gonna happen.
Can't do it. Yeah.
Guess what happens in that circumstance? Now, if she is going to go bankrupt without going to this $1 million buy-in, well, guess what? She's going bankrupt. And so here's what I keep telling people. Like, you can get all upset about this thing, and here's what you'd be. Trump has surrounded himself. I'm gonna do this. You and I were talking about this before. Trump has surrounded himself with billionaires who are economists. Scott Bessent is a billionaire who's actually, I think he's a rancher, if I remember right. He really likes ranching, and every time he talks to Congress, he talks to them. He's like flick him in the head. I mean, he every time he talks to him, I'm like, don't just keep flicking him. Like, anyway, Howard Lutnick, the I can't remember what he does. He's a billionaire too. He surrounds himself with these economists all over the place, and Trump is an economist. If they're not upset about this stuff, they know something that most Americans don't know.
Right.
What they're doing, and Catherine, I hope Catherine Austin Fitts gets this, but I don't know that she does. Here's what we're doing. We're taking the debt and we're shoving it down the throats of everyone who is in bed with Jeffrey Epstein. And we're saying, we're not paying it.
And what can they do if you just say, well, you're not?
What can they do?
I don't know.
I mean, listen, what did you do to accomplish the national debt, the $39 trillion? What did you do? Did you do something to accomplish that? And the answer is no.
No.
I can prove to you about 300 ways to Sunday that the debts that you did to buy your house, if you've been in your house more than about 10 years, you've paid your house off. If you have a 5-year loan on a car, you've already probably, if you have had it for more than about 2 years, you probably paid it off. Like, I could probably run through different issues about with credit card debts,
yes,
loans, and different things. I mean, and every single one of these are, if you do a loan in fraud, if I wrote a loan and I wrote it to Kelsey and I did it in fraud, and Kelsey took me to a judge. And by the way, I'm in the middle of a lawsuit with an IT guy, and it's a contract law issue, and it is a fraud-based circumstance, and it's a horrible contract, and my lawyer is laughing all the way through this. Now, it's annoying for me.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
And of course it is, and it's costing me money with legal fees. But
Yes.
but the IT business owner is a complete moron with the whole thing. But the point is that we go to a judge, and this is going to get thrown out like on its ear, because it's done in a fraudulent based point of a contract. Listen, Scott was stupid for signing the contract. I mean, the original part of the contract was okay, but the next part of the thing was done in fraud, and I caught him in that point here. The point is that if I do a contract, I don't care if I do this with Kelsey and I do it incorrectly. It doesn't matter if she owes money in this way, but if I do it incorrectly, who gets thrown out in the contract?
The person who did it fraudulently. Yeah.
Scott.
You.
Right? This is what happens. And the banks own all the credit card debt. The banks own all the big debts, the student loan debts. The banks own all of this kind of stuff. I mean, all the debts of all these kinds of things. They own it all. It's all going up to them. And here's what the Fed says about themselves. They are the creditor of last resort. Because the small banks don't have any more money. If you walked into your bank and you had $60,000 to $100,000 in your bank of different accounts, and you ask for the cash, they don't have it.
They're not going to give it to you. Yeah.
Not because not because they're mean people. They don't have the money in the bank to give it to you.
I've heard those stories. I've seen those stories before where people will make videos about that. They went in to ask for 50,000 and we can't do that. We can't. And he's like, "It's my money. What do you mean you can't give
It's
it to me?"
it's not because they're trying to be mean. I mean, they don't have the cash. They don't have the ability to write it.
Mhm.
And there's just so much about that kind of stuff. It's because the banks are at a critical choke point. They don't have the ability to do this anymore. And they've been a part of the fraud point too. But the smaller banks are in the choke point of the top banks. And I
Mhm.
mean, there's no way for them to get out of that circumstance with that too.
So then what's going to happen moving forward?
Well, one of the things that I believe is we're at this point of choke is that we have to have this circumstance where it has to come from a federal circumstance of a couple things. Now, I mentioned the SAVE Act that before, the SAVE Act is really key, I think. And
Mhm.
I it's so funny. CNN poll showed that 76% of Black voters to 85% of white voters are all saying that they want a voter ID. And here's what happens, which is just like it almost gives us a headache, when you kind of look at this. Like to get on an airplane, to drive a car, to do like almost any level of business of any type. I mean, any normal
Right.
thing, to pull out an ID is a normal thing.
To
Every single
buy a thing of wine or
right.
to
Like
yeah.
I I mean, like to go into your bank and do anything. I mean, to do any kind of little thing, everyone walks out with their wallet or with their purse. I mean, come
Mhm.
on. It's the
Mhm.
dumbest thing. Here's what happens. That will destroy Congress, Senate, state senates. It will destroy the mayors. It will destroy the system. And it is one of the very last laws before midterms.
Mhm.
So that's why they're freaking out. You have no idea. This will destroy the systems. That happens.
Mhm.
Secondly, one of the things that happens is that when it does, they're going to all be like, "Okay, I'm done." And so what happens is that they'll have nothing left,
Mm.
because the NGOs that have been running around and having the organized issues with illegals, what I believe is going to happen is that they'll instantly be out of money. And so one of the things that I believe will occur is that I believe that we need to have the Insurrection Act.
Mhm.
um, so I think that we'll start seeing the military coming in and protecting ICE. So the little weaklings, and they're weaklings,
Mhm.
need to be protected around. I mean, ICE be protected while they go do their job, and just wash out the rest of the illegals. And when you start seeing the military
Mhm.
with ARs walking around, um, the illegals will be going, okay, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm walking out of the building. When you start seeing, and there's no one there to kind of, do their little silliness. See,
Cuz no
you're
one's paying them anymore.
yeah, it's not just no one. See, no one's getting paid. There's more than that. See, no one in Minnesota and all these different places are getting paid. The money actually got shut off in February 1.
Mm.
Did you know that?
No?
No one's getting any money anymore. February 1 was a very important date. They have to actually show documentation for all of that stuff. So no one's getting any money. We're already past the red line of this stuff.
Great. Great.
But when they walk out and there's no protesters anymore, or at least the protesters are are few in number, and they're all like eating each other in the streets because they're not organized by the NGOs anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Then what will happen is they'll go, okay, I don't know what to do anymore, and they'll just start walking out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that will start happening, and then the systems just disintegrate. I mean, everything just disintegrates because they don't have anything left.
Mm-hmm. That will be a great day.
Yep.
It would be I'm looking forward to that. I really, really am. And I read something the other day too, when I was looking through your notes, that I guess the Pentagon too was audited for 7 years in a row, and they failed 7 years in a row. And I
Well,
was like, what? And it's just, but then there's no consequence, and some people will say what they're doing is they're taking the money and they're putting it into like secret government operations or whatever. What would you say to that?
well, and I think one of the things that's happening is that people will realize is that Bitcoin came out
Mhm.
in 2008. What they did is, now listen, all of Bitcoin isn't bad, okay? But more than 50% of Bitcoin has been used for a lot of these NGOs and all this other secret stuff. But here's what
Okay.
happens with Bitcoin. It's blockchain. What blockchain does
Mhm.
is it lets you go back in time and see all of the transactions and see exactly when and
That's
who
good.
did it.
Good.
That's why Doge is able to find every single little bit. And by the way, in Treasury, and some of these guys have seen this. Elon talked about this.
Mhm.
In the Treasury Department, there are 14 separate supercomputers that actually go in, and then they build out and they shove out different bits of money. Now they're not doing like physical bits of money. They're building out money, but those things are actually traceable.
Mhm.
So what happens is that you don't understand, the Doge thing is still going and no one knows it.
Mhm.
And so this is all, they're tracing everything that they've been doing. But do you know that they've been tracing it since 2008?
Awesome. Who's been in charge of it?
But this is the military. This is
Okay.
why people don't realize they're watching everything. And so the military operation. This is why we're going to say it. I normally don't say this on YouTube, but here's what we're going to say this. Q.
Mhm.
If you don't know anything about Q, you research some of this stuff. And I mean, Bill Meyer, I don't know if I say that right. He actually
Mayor.
just said the Epstein files. And he said, well, people, been talking about the Epstein files, and I talked about QAnon, which is stupid wording because there is no such thing as QAnon. There's Q and there's anons, and different conversation.
Mhm.
And I'll explain what Q is in just a second. Um, but Q talked about it for a long time. And then Epstein files come out and he goes, maybe I should apologize to all the people who are QAnon with that too. And if you want to know, do you know the best place to know the reality, the reality of Q is a movie called Oppenheimer. The
Oh
um,
gosh, how do you spell that?
Oppenheimer, if you haven't known, that's the originator of the creation of the nuclear bomb. So if you want to
Okay.
do the guy that created the nuclear weapon in the 40s, right? So
Okay.
so Oppenheimer, and my son has watched this like 4 or 5 times. It's a 3.5 hour movie, so
Oh,
you can
wow.
kind of watch this. It's a kind of fun movie. But one of the things that happens in it, and people don't realize, they think Q is this nefarious thing.
Mhm.
What Q is it's called a clearance. A Q clearance means it's a nuclear clearance.
Oh, wow.
It's a real thing. And
Yeah.
in the Oppenheimer movie,
Uh-huh.
they walk up to Oppenheimer and they go, "You got your Q clearance." And this was in 1944.
Mm.
In 1945, when he finally gets, when they're getting the nuclear program up and running, he gets his Q clearance. When is in the 1950s when they're taking away his capability and his government clearance. They take away his Q clearance.
Mm.
And people have never like understood this, and they thought we were making stuff up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the Q team are just generals and colonels and other things. These are military people who had nuclear level clearance.
Wow. Wow.
This isn't like a fiction. I mean, this isn't fiction, and people make fun of it all the time. This is just these are real things, and so
I
even
think
though
when you don't understand, when you explain it, well, why would they use that? Well, because that's literally what the clearance is called, and that's what they
it's a
have.
it,
It's
it is a
hello.
it's an atomic or a nuclear level clearance. Now, people who are sergeants who work with nuclear weapons have a Q clearance. Now they have a low level Q clearance. Okay. And so, I mean, I have a lot of military people that give me a lot of information on the back end of this kind of stuff, but I've researched like crazy with that stuff too. So it first started on 4chan and then it went to 8chan. And some of those things were just trying to give you pieces of information. And what's fascinating is that the public is starting to learn about this even right now. Just the other day, they dropped pieces of information. Do you know that back in 2020 and 2021, they were talking, the FBI was talking about that they were talking about the QFS, they were talking about NESARA, they were talking about this other stuff that they knew all about it. And they actually knew that Biden was killed in 2019. They were talking all about this kind of stuff. And they were like, I'm like, what? They even knew that the QFS was going to be used as a scam. And
What?
I have been talking about this stuff with the FBI. I personally, because they've been scamming me over and over again. And I've been screaming at the top of my lungs with the FCC, with police, with FBI. And there's a document that I just pulled the other day, and I was doing this with Mark Z show. Steve and I know this, quite a bit, and it's just like guys, there's this whole release of all the Epstein files that people have been talking about. One of the releases is exactly up this exact aisle, and the FBI released this document talking all about this, and I'm like,
It's right. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will worry about itself. But yes, it's just, I mean, Q's been saying so many things that you see happen later. And it's because obviously they know the inside of what's happening. And sometimes it takes years before it's public knowledge. And I mean, that major people like Bill Mayer saying that, I mean, that should, even that alone, people who watch that show should be like, wait, what do you mean? Let me go look at that, right? Like, let me go look into that. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. Okay. Do you want me to move on to some questions now?
Yeah,
I'll
I thought
only
I
give you a
caught a couple questions
Do you
in there
have
too.
time? Do you have a
Oh
show
yeah,
after
please,
this?
yeah, let's do it. I
Do you
thought I
have a show
caught
after
some
this?
questions too, so I wanted to hit a couple that I saw the questions, but let's do some more.
Okay. Okay. So let's see. Let me find one. Okay, this is a good one. Do you think credit cards will go away and we'll just have a QFS account to draw from?
So credit cards are still going to be there. I mean, you're still going to have the ability to have your own credit card. Let's say you have a $5,000 credit card, or let's say you have $1,000 in on your credit card. You have a $5,000 limit, right? Let's say now, it's got a 17% interest on it, okay, which is compound interest. So when the debt forgiveness happens, it's a one-time deal. So all of the debt wipes out. Okay, it's a one-time thing. Now, Trump is saying, interest rates would have to go down to at least 10% or lower. I think it's going to go down to like 1% or 2%. But I also believe that the banks are not going to ever be able to allow to go in compound interest, because we're going to start seeing this conversation go into simple interest instead of compound interest, because I think compound interest is an illegal thing. That's number one. But your
Okay.
credit card is going to be available for you. They can't
Mm-hmm.
take that away because
Mm-hmm.
most people actually have those. Now, secondly, QFS, the quantum financial system, people talk about it all the time like it's a new thing, like you're going to have quantum financial system accounts. Every account that you have, like
Mm-hmm.
I have business accounts and I have business and I have ministry accounts and I have other, personal accounts and all this other things, right?
Right.
And because I was trying to, get my son on some of my accounts and my wife on other accounts and other things, um, every bank account is just going to be turned in and just flipped
Mm-hmm.
into quantum financial uh, compliant. So th-
Okay.
they're not going to be like new accounts all at once. They're just going to be compliant. And so in the bank terminology, that they're going to be like, we're now compliant with a new system. They'll call it
Mm-hmm.
some. They won't say quantum system, but they'll say a new system or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And people won't know what it means, but they'll be like, oh, okay, they just upgraded it. Okay.
Yeah. So that really helps us understand a lot better of it. So it won't be this big, huge thing where it's like, oh, I need to get all my money out of the bank and then I need to start this new account. It's not going to
Now,
be that way. They'll just become compliant. It'll be your same numbers or your same
and
account and
and
everything
they'll
like that.
they'll they'll be directed out instead of to the Fed, they'll
Hmm.
just be cut there and they just go to the Treasury instead
I
in
see.
essence.
Yeah.
So they're gold
Cut out the
back.
middleman.
Yeah, they cut out the middleman, right?
Yeah.
So the Fed can't touch them anymore. It's
Good.
just your relationship to your bank,
Hmm.
but they're gold backed.
Right.
So and what it is makes it very private,
Hmm.
right? So that no one else can see it.
Hmm. Right. That's really good. Um, Oh, this is interesting. What happens to credit card limits when debt is canceled? So will you still keep your same credit card limit or
Well, I think some of the credit card limits for some people have been out of whack. I mean, so listen, some people who have had massive credit card limits and have been overhyped and what their limits are probably need to come down a little bit.
Mhm.
Because, for instance, you have some people who have had limits raised and given to them they probably shouldn't be having.
Mhm.
Because if they really look at their budget, they probably don't need to be having that anymore. And the bank will probably be looking at that.
Mhm.
Um, and so, when you had make up a number $25,000 limit, and now it goes down to zero, they might be coming to you and say, "Really, do you need that $25,000 limit?" Now, as a business owner, I'm going to tell you this, man. I've got some business credit cards that I have 60 and $70,000, limits on. I need those things to be those limits. Okay.
Mhm.
As a business, I have to have them those things
Mhm.
because why I've got, manufacturer cost of goods sold kind of things or COGS kind of thing. I got to be able to use them and then I pay them off at the end of the
Yeah.
month and
Yeah.
then I have them use them. So I need to have those kinds of limits on there, those high numbers so
Mhm.
that I have the ability to do that. But on personal levels, why you have that.
Right.
Um, so you might see some reduction of those, but I think it would be just a negotiation that you would have with your bank.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think it's safer for people to not have I mean, it's better for you in the long run too,
Right.
you know? Okay, I'm gonna give you one more. Um, do you think we'll still live by social security numbers, birth certificates, etc., and will old processes be simplified?
I think social security numbers are kind of because we're so used to them,
Mhm.
there might be around for a while, but we might see well, first off, they're going to be outside of the system. I mean, they're going to be private, where in the past we've been able to, see them um, modified and people can find them. And I think we might say, hey, you know what? We're kind of scrapping a little bit of the Social Security system because so many people can get a hold of your Social Security card. And by the way, people with the IRS, my Social Security cannot be utilized to file taxes. And so when I've tried to file taxes in the past, I have to have a personal code to file taxes.
Why is that?
Because some idiot in Georgia had
It wasn't me.
thousands of people.
I'm in
Yeah,
Georgia.
I know. and thousands of people that he was getting money from under my Social Security number. And when I paid, like, I think in that year, I think had to pay like $4,000. The IRS took my $4,000 and then found my Social Security was hijacked in that way. And I was like going, and then ever since that point in time, the IRS would send me this little, here's my identifier code
Mm-hmm.
for my wife and I
Mm-hmm.
instead of Social Security number.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there might be some level of, hey, listen, let's get away from the Social Security number, just as an idea. Because but I don't think, for in the beginning phase, we're going to use that. We'll probably keep that around for a while because people like, hey, that's what I remember. And I can remember my wife's Social Security number, mine. And so they might still do that. Birth certificates, the one thing that we've known is that they have been traded on the stock markets for years. Doge has talked about that quite a bit. So one of the things that's fascinating, I'm going to give you, and I think I've talked about this before, but when my father-in-law died, it's been like 2 years this month. And he was 89. And when he died, it took us, the death certificate came through. And as soon as the death certificate came through, do you know that the Social Security office and the VA took the money back out of his account like that? They ripped the money out of his account, direct withdrawal.
Wow.
And I'm surprised. I mean, I saw the money go right out of his account as soon as the birth certificate came in. But did you know that we had to go down to the driver's license place in Oklahoma here. We had to go to the voter registration and we had to fight with them to get his name off of the accounts.
Wow.
That tells you how sick the system is. Okay. See, it should be very simple. As soon as, because the system knew Frank was dead. So why is it that Frank is still alive in the driver's license system and the voter registration, but the Social Security knew he was dead and the VA knew he was dead?
Right.
Right?
Because it's fraudulent. It's a way.
It just tells you,
an
and
open avenue.
we're in a red state, and yet it's the whole system. So one of the things that has to occur is we have to have a flip in this whole thing. And so the birth certificate system has to be killed off in that way. So we're going to see a whole bunch of changes, and that's part of the SAVE Act. That's part of a lot of these kinds of things. And this is, some of it is a very painful process for all this stuff, right? It's a very painful thing. But remember, this has been going on since 1913. And just because, you maybe have been awake since 2017 and it's now 2026 and you're going, man, can't this be over? I understand. But I always kind of say, this is a military operation. And this is not going to be super simple to get this thing to go away.
Right, because there's so many factors trying to stop it. So yes, absolutely. I mean, that makes perfect sense. So is there anything else you want to share with the audience listening just to encourage them? Maybe some things we can look forward to this year in 2026?
Well, I truly believe that we're in the end phase. How much is that end phase? I don't know what that is. All I know is that Trump just keeps looking at this and saying, that this is coming, that's coming. I mean, health insurances are getting out of hand. He knows that that's coming. Trust me, even though it's painful in that moment. I mean,
Mhm.
like for instance, a powerful thing that you guys can look at too is Matthew 24. It says, when we have and Kelsey, you know this very well. I mean, when you went through the pain of childbirth,
Mhm.
it's not that easy to go through.
That's right.
Um, Even if you have the epidural, it
Mhm.
is incredibly painful, right?
Mhm.
But it's a very difficult time frame, and my wife went through it. It was going on for like 12 hours, right?
Yep. Yep.
And you're going through it, and you're going, "Holy cow!" But when you get over it, it's okay, right? But
Yeah.
that 12 hours is like, "Oh, can this be over with?" Right?
Yeah.
And even the 9 months of this is sometimes excruciating, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So here's what happens. That's what we're in the middle of. And by the way, why did God utilize in Matthew 24 the example of the difficulty that women have with childbirth to the tribulation?
Mhm.
Because it's
Yeah.
very much similar. Well, I think that
Mhm.
we're dealing with, and I don't think we're in the tribulation, but we're in that same kind of phasing of how difficult the world's going through. And that's kind of why I'm going to do a little transition here. This is my book here that we just released here, just came out here. It's called Tribulation. You can go to drscottyoung.com. It's the first hard book I ever came up with. Very tough to come up with. But you can go to drscottyoung.com to get Tribulation. It's kind of flying off the bookshelves. I did oh my gosh, a 4.5 hour video to do this. It was like
Wow.
super long. I had to pause it during like a whole weekend long.
Uh-huh.
Mike Winger. I don't know if you've seen Mike Winger's
Yeah,
video.
we've been talking about that. Yes.
Um, I, I watched his video, which I could not believe how long I watched it, but I was fascinated by his videos. I love his stuff. But after watching it, I put it on my Telegram channel. I'm like, okay, super long video, just like Mike Winger. How many people want me to do a very long video? And I thought, Wendy goes, my wife, she goes, no one's going to vote for that. Swear to you, 700 people go, 87% of people said, I want the long video. I'm like, oh,
Oh gosh.
okay.
Yeah.
So it was like a 4.5 hour video. And then I followed it up with a
Mm.
3.5 hour video talking about
Wow,
all the
Dr. Scott.
groups of
Mhm.
people in this. So I did,
Wow.
2 different
Wow.
videos. One of them's dropping that you guys are going to watch. You guys are going to watch this with ElijahStreams. It's going to be on my channel. And you guys can watch that too. So
What tell them your channel so they can
go,
know.
go to drscottyoung.com and you can watch and you can find the YouTube channel. Very easy to
Okay.
find it that way too. So you can kind of go to the YouTube channel and you can watch the tribulation video with that too.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on and, reminding us that God is in control and he's known about this for a long time. And we just need to continue to do what's right and focus on him. And we will see great things coming. We know that to be true. And I appreciate you so much, Dr. Scott. So thank you so much for being with us today. All right, everybody, we will see you right back here on Monday with Johnny Enlow for Johnny Enlow Unfiltered. We love you. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.